Just wait for a connection. And here it is. Hello, Mr. Vanroon. How are you?
Good morning. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Very well. So glad that you could join us, even from a different
Really
time
appreciate
zone.
it.
What time is it there?
That's it. Yeah. Opposite 12 hours difference. So we're at 9 a.m. in New Zealand.
9 a.m. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So it's great to see you, and we've got our followers to tune in today. So we're going to hear a little bit about yourself and what you do. Obviously, you've been training in Taekwondo for quite a long time. Made a really good name for yourself. How long have you actually been training?
I've been training for 25 years. So I started martial arts when I was 10 years old. I started doing karate first, and when I was about 16 years old, I started doing ITF Taekwondo. And yeah, the following year, I also started kickboxing too. So when I was around about 17, I've just turned 36. So yeah, about 26 years in the martial arts, and it's my absolute life's work. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And what Dan grade are you now?
I'm a third degree black belt in ITF Taekwondo, and I have a fifth degree black belt in karate, and a second degree black belt, and maybe a few other belts lying around in different.
Nice collection. That's excellent. So we know what you've done in ITF Taekwondo. We'll go through that sort of shortly. Go through what your accolades are there. But you say you've done kickboxing as well. So have you competed in that?
Yeah, I was the Wacko kickboxing team captain for New Zealand in the first year that we took a World Championships in 2005. So years ago now. Makes me feel a little bit old. And yeah, so over the years, I competed under various federations with kickboxing, under various rule sets, and also full contact karate, locally, abroad in Japan, in Europe, and America. Yeah, it's been awesome, you know. Yeah.
That sounds fantastic. And have you picked up any injuries along the way?
You know, not too bad really. I had my ribs broken about 15 years ago, quite badly from a side kick. I won the fight, but it still
Excellent.
out of angle. I one time actually threw a glove on somebody's forehead. Believe it or not, I broke my hand on their forehead. I've never actually had my nose broken. I'll probably ruin it now by saying that, but yeah. Not bad injuries and not many concussions over the years like that. So no, I've never done an ACL. I haven't done my hip, or I haven't had any labrum problems or ankle issues really. Mostly it's pretty good. And I think some of that comes down to I'm fortunate enough to have studied sport and exercise science, and my graduate diploma before I did my master's degree was on exercise rehabilitation, and I think that really changed about a few things. And also, I think like the community in general in martial arts and mixed martial arts, a lot smarter about how we approach training, smarter, not just harder, and also about, as Conor McGregor's coach, about upgrading your software without damaging your hardware. You know, I think that's been a big change in the last decade or so, which I think is really awesome too. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like the concepts of the sports science. So how long did you do the sports science for?
Yeah, look, I did a bachelor's degree for about 3 years, and I did a postgraduate diploma, which normally goes for 1 year, and that was on exercise rehabilitation. And then I did a master's degree, which usually would have been a 1 year to a thesis, and I spread that out over 2 years. Just to give me time, because I was also competing on the world stage. And I did my master's degree in mental skills training, mindset training. And I wanted to know, really what I wanted to learn was I wanted to learn what separates good practitioners from great practitioners. I wanted to know what separated, the elite from ones that are doing well, but they're not really in that peak. And I did my master's degree thesis on mental skills and cue words that we use to tell ourselves to get ourselves into a certain state. And look, that was 10 years ago now. I completed my master's degree thesis in 2010 and graduated in 2011. It seems crazy to say that it's all gone that far. Something that I use every day. You might behind me. There's some words that say sports science. Just over here. It's part of my logo and just my general ethos. Even this t-shirt also the sports science on it too. Performance sports science mindset. So I'm trying to give a bit of a different take on how to approach martial arts and continue evolving. Yeah.
So give me a little insight then into how you teach the mental side of Taekwondo. What would you do in a typical lesson to get people to understand that mindset?
Yeah, look, it depends on what you're trying to achieve a lot based on context, but it could be anything from giving you visualization cues or cue words to learn a task, to make a task easier to learn, or it could be using mental rehearsal or visualization to prepare for a particular fight. It could be getting yourself into a very calm state and preparing yourself for an event ahead of time, so when it arrives, your subconscious mind is already familiar with the concept of what you're going to do and the stress that it's going to be under already. For example, recently I had my mixed martial arts debut, and here in Auckland, in New Zealand, and I used a lot of that to prepare myself to mentally rehearse, and yeah, it made a massive difference, and it's something that I've incorporated into my own combat and my own preparation for years, and now it's almost second nature how I incorporate that into teaching in classes. And I think ultimately the best coaches that I've come across are the ones that can help you change the way that you think about yourself or teach you to coach yourself. Essentially, that's what mindset coaching is about. It's about helping someone to see themselves in a new way and expand their identity, expand their limitations, and then rise up from that with enhancement.
Okay, and you brushed a little bit on mixed martial arts there, and as you've just said, you've managed to compete already, and I hasten to add, briskly winning your first fight. So just tell me a little bit about the training that's gone into that.
Yeah, look, it was quite funny because everybody was saying to me, "Oh, yep, look, you're gonna knock this guy out with a spinning kick or something like that." And there was a few things that kind of factored in with when I was actually in the fight. Within the first time I threw that spinning hook kick or reverse turning kick, he ducked it straight away, watching out for my back and things. It just felt like I could find my hands quite easily. So that finished with that technical knockout with the hands at first round. But also another thing that factored in was in the camp leading up to it. I was doing my camp at Kickbox, which is a really great mixed martial arts gym. Actually, maybe arguably one of the most successful gyms in the last year within the mixed. So a couple of youth champions have come out of that gym, Israel Adesanya and also Alex Volkanovski. So a lot of great people in that gym being around. But look, I did my camp at City Kickboxing, and I've been training there for a couple of years now with a really great team led by Eugene Behrman. And I actually hurt my foot quite badly in the last week, sort of second to last week in a sparring session. I was feeling amazing, and I was mixing up all my different kicks, my Taekwondo kicks, with my strikes and takedown defense and wrestling. I was having a great time in the sparring. And I did something that was a little bit silly, tried to pull off a kind of a silly move, and I bent my instep way back on my left foot. And for probably about the second week before the fight, last week before the fight, I couldn't really walk properly, I couldn't move properly, and I couldn't wrestle, I couldn't kick. The only thing I could do was box, and I boxed, and I first boxing and preparing, and that's another thing where that mindset coaching comes in. And I visualized landing. It was so funny because I visualized landing that particular overhand right. And the sparring session before, just before the fight, I had rehearsed it a lot, and I was visualizing it. And doing the weight cut, I was seeing that moment. And so I think between the injury and a bit of mental rehearsal, it just fell into place. So that was really awesome. Very
Yes,
extreme.
yeah, it looked fantastic. I sort of watched the fight, and it looked superb. In fact, I think I even posted it.
So much.
Yeah, no problem at all. Um, and you must be missing. I mean, normally you're going to be out teaching about now, and potentially running some seminars. So how's this coronavirus affected your school per se?
Yeah, look, it's been really interesting. I think it's been a really interesting time. I'm actually still coaching as many hours as I was before, but doing them all online. And I'm also coaching internationally. So I've started up international squads and groups. And I'm really taking this opportunity to reconnect with a whole bunch of people that I've coached around the world, particularly in, not necessarily only, but particularly so Australia, Canada, the United States, the United Kingdom. So yeah, like it's been an awesome time. It's been a really awesome time. See the potential of what can be done online, and use my online platform to help people to expand their martial arts knowledge. And you know, I think it's the same as our martial arts training. We can look at it as from the point of, do we have the resources to accomplish our goal, or can we be resourceful enough to accomplish it anyway? So I think that's what often separates champions from the rest, is being resourceful, not complaining about a lack of resources or wishing that things were different that they can't control anyway. That's another typical mind. You know, I suppose theme, which is about focusing on what you can control rather than what you can't control. And yeah, so that comes back to our attitude about COVID-19.
Yeah, this is true. So tell me, you seem incredibly flexible. I've seen some amazing kicks on your page, and some incredibly high kicks, especially that kick from Juche that I've been trying to do for years unsuccessfully. I'll hasten to add. Have you got any tips on flexibility to help me with that?
Yeah, one of the things that I think makes a big difference on flexibility, and I'm often asked about this, is, you know, from a sports science perspective, a really, really fascinating area is that when your body is pushed through a range of motion that it's not familiar with, it's not necessarily that those muscles themselves aren't capable of going further, but your nervous system has inbuilt responses that inhibit you from going further. Now, you probably already heard about this, like PNF, so on and so forth, but basically, the whole point is that if your body doesn't think that it's strong enough to stabilize you in that range of motion, it will deliberately inhibit or lock up that pattern. So
Yeah, stretch reflex.
Yeah, what's that, sorry?
Stretch reflex.
Yeah, it's the stretch reflex. Exactly. Yeah. So the stretch reflex is engaged, particularly when the range of motion is not familiar and you're not strong enough in that range. So what I would really recommend is, and it's you know, a lot of people have said it before, so I'm not really saying something completely new, but is really everyone to take the time to strengthen through those particular movements and muscle groups where they feel limited. So not just working the antagonist, the agonist, but working both sides. For example, if you've got very tight groin muscles, your adductors, so to speak, which take your legs back together like this, then you want to strengthen everything down the side of your body that abducts your legs. So your glute medius, you need to strengthen your hip flexor, you need to strengthen your latissimus dorsi, your obliques, you need to strengthen, yeah, you understand what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
So it's fairly common knowledge in Taekwondo circles, but just from a sports science perspective, like, we understand the stretch reflex, but basically a lot of the time that's preventing you from going further if you haven't strengthened yourself correctly and taken the time to do so. If you look at, for example, a ballerina, they spend a lot of time on the bar and they're lifting with control as they're lengthening and stretching. So there's kind of, the body is working in synergy. It's contracting one side, and then there's a muscle, there's a loop, there's a feedback loop from one muscle to the other, saying, the quadricep, for example, is saying to the hamstrings, okay, you can relax a little bit so I can contract and extend, you know? So it's like going in a, we're basically manipulating that feedback loop. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's sounding very similar to the way that the isometric patterns work with the falling of the brain, etc. To achieve. Yeah. That's good. So another thing I wanted to ask you, I see you have a really good relationship with Ginger Ninja.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell
Look,
us a little bit about that.
yeah. It's been really interesting actually. In 2018, I took a team to the World Cup for ITF Taekwondo, and which was, the team did really well. I was really proud of them. Quite a few gold medal performances, and GNT Aaron, he actually sent a message through Instagram and he said, "Hey, just congratulations on your team. You did really well." And I was like, "Oh, hang on a second, I know who you are." And I realized that he was the YouTube guy that everybody has seen at some point or another. And I, said, "Hey, thank you very much. I've been a fan on what you do for a long time." And then I got to talking with my wife, who's also my business partner, Marnie, and we said, how would it be for us to fly him down to New Zealand and do a camp? Would that be crazy? And we didn't really know each other. We didn't have any particular connection, but I felt like a good energy and a good synergy from the beginning. And we're like, well, we'll just give it a go. Like, you can't. Who dares win?
Nothing to lose.
Like, down, we'll camp. And he was part of our Vanroon martial arts summer camp, which we host every year. And when we say summer, it's actually our January. So it's a nice escape from him for the winter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's basically what happened. Then he returned once again for our summer camp again this year. So he's 19 and 2020. And once again contributed some great stuff. We had a great time. Yeah, did some fight choreography, which is something actually spoken about, you and I yet. TV, but yeah, look, it was really great to touch base with him. Really inspiring to other great martial artists, whether that in like UFC fighters or YouTube personalities like Ninja or otherwise. It keeps me feeling motivated.
Fantastic. And yeah, you just brushed on the next thing I was going to go on to actually is stunt performance work and films. Have you been involved in films? Certainly, I know you've been involved in stunt work. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure, yeah. So I think like a lot of us, I grew up in martial arts, inspired by the typical stuff, whether it was the Jean-Claude Van Damme or Bruce Lee or Jackie Chan or Donnie Yen or the Karate Kid or the Ninja Turtles. I could go on. And basically that all led me into doing stunt work for film and TV. But it wasn't actually until I was around about 25, so about 10 years ago, 25, 26, that I actually got the opportunity to do that. And my first job was actually on Power Rangers. And I got beaten up as a monster.
Okay.
So, all the monsters run in and try to attack, and they all just get smashed by these Japanese stunt doubles and stunt hidden under the masks, doubling the American actors. And that was my first job. And from there, I've been like absolutely blessed to be able to work on a whole bunch of different stuff, including the Hobbit trilogy. And so I was stunt doubling one of the lead actors on that. And other movies and films and TV shows for the last 10 years or so. So, it's been really, really awesome. And that's something that also that myself and Aaron share in common, which is we've both been able to apply our skills in a way with film and TV. And it's been fantastic, actually. Yeah.
What's it like meeting those actors? Have you ever sort of tried to get them down to the dojo and teach them a few moves?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Sometimes as a stunt double, if there's action scenes, it's really common actually to have to guide your the person that you're doubling or you're supporting through movements and help support them. A lot of the time we work in close proximity with actors, so we have to make sure that they don't get hurt and they know what they're doing. Things like that. I'm sorry, what was the other part of the question? You said working with, I think there's one other.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I said, yeah, so we had a little pause there. No, I said, have you ever got them down to the dojang and showed them a couple of moves and got them to do some training?
Yeah, yeah. Look, I've been able to connect with a number of people that I've been seeing them on the screen, and then having them there in person, and thinking, wait a second, you're actually this person. But what I've learned, everybody's just human, you know, like
Sure.
everybody's just cool. People have the same general hopes and fears and loves, and yeah, it's all good. And if I can share my passion for martial arts with the film and TV community as well, then that's a real bonus. So yeah.
Yeah, and then we've got a question come through here. So how can you make your kicks faster?
How can you make kicks faster? Yeah, a lot of making your kicks faster is about efficiency. About efficiency. So you want to shortcut your movements. So, for example, if I'm throwing a punch, and I know this is really simple, but if I'm throwing a punch and I pull back the movement and then I throw it, or if I come on a bit of a curve like this, or if I show a lean before I throw the punch, then it's gonna be less fast, it's gonna be less quick, it's gonna be less efficient, right? So a lot of about making it faster from a real base perspective is not so much about trying to just push your body hard and fast. A good way to look at it is slow is smooth, smooth is fast. You might have heard that before. So slow is smooth. So what do we start with? We start with, for example, with a punch. A little bit more difficult for me to throw a kick, although I'd be happy to. Is to make everything smooth, so everything hidden. So first, just hide the movement and make sure that your body doesn't move before, for example, your hand moves. So I don't do this, body, hand. Then I'm telegraphing, body, hand. So to make it faster, or at least appear faster, so the person can't react to it in time, then I have to try to hide that and make it more efficient, like this. So see, my body doesn't move until my hand starts to move. So I think about traveling the attacking weapon to the target first. That's the think about moving my foot straight to the target and hide everything else. You would have seen people like Bruce Lee talk about that. Arguably the father of mixed martial arts, and he would talk about non-telegraph striking. And I think a lot of the time, manipulating somebody's perception of what is fast and what isn't fast is actually more important than whether you are fast or not in a physiological or a physical sense, because there are limits to physical speed and to physiological speed, right? To what we can do our own capacity, but we can manipulate somebody else's perception and hide that. Yeah, so that's one way that we can look at speed. Of course, there's other ways too. You can also manipulate your what we would talk about, your slow twitch versus your fast twitch muscle fibers. And the way that you do that to increase the amount of fast twitch muscle fibers that your DNA expresses or builds. Of course, there's a limit to that because fast twitch muscle fiber is built by doing certain things, and there's only really two ways to build or grow. You either have to do the movement as fast as possible, or you have to do it as heavy as possible. So, for example, if you sprint as fast and hard as you can for 40 yards or 40 meters, or if you lift a weight that is as heavy as you possibly can, and even if it's moving physically slowly, if it's a maximum, the maximum that you can lift, that will build your fibers. So it's important that you send the correct movement or the correct pattern to your body. So we're kind of approaching it on two ways. It almost might seem contradictory. On one hand, I'm saying you have to go slow and smooth, right? Slow and then smooth to make your movement smooth before you go fast. That's from a technical perspective, so that you don't have inefficiencies. And then from a physical perspective, you want to push yourself with the correct training, not long and out endurance training. If you want to become more explosive and fast, not that endurance isn't important for sparring, you have to develop that too. But if you want to be fast and if you want to be explosive, then you want to develop fast twitch muscle fiber through either lift very heavy or by moving your body at maximum intensity. That's how to do it. I hope that helps.
Yeah, very, very interesting. So, what would your go-to techniques be when you normally spar?
Go-to techniques. Wow, really depends on which martial art I'm doing to an extent, but to be honest, I don't really have set go-to techniques. You know, the reason why is because I want to be adaptable to every situation. Like, you know, everybody said to me about my MMA debut, "Oh, you're gonna knock him out with a kick. You're gonna knock him out with a kick," and then I knocked him out with my hands. And people were like, "Is this guy a boxer or is this guy a Taekwondo
Yeah.
fighter?"
Mhm.
So from a young age, I wanted to, when I was 14 years old, my father brought back a book from the United States that he was given by a friend who also did martial arts. And the book was The Power of Jeet Kune Do by Bruce Lee. And he said, absorb what's useful, reject what's useless, and add what's uniquely your own. And ever since then, I think I've taken that on subconsciously in terms of how I approach things. So rather than just saying, okay, I only just like this, these are my favorite techniques, I just like side kick, I just like back kick, I just like roundhouse or turning kick. I try to develop it all. You know what I mean? If I was
Sure.
going to say which area of my expertise is most highly developed, I would say it's my long range striking, of course. And I endeavor to be able to fight both from southpaw and from orthodox, and both from side on position, and also from square. So it's in that way I'm a typical Taekwondo or karate based fighter. But I also try to endeavor to fill in every single gap where I can and just continue to learn, which keeps me so passionate about martial arts. Yeah.
So, how many titles do you think that you've won to date?
How many titles? Well, it's been maybe about a dozen, and those have been for various things. And it's important to note that those are not all for fighting. They're not all for fighting. They're also for things like special techniques, so jumping kick competition. They're also for prearranged sparring, so choreographed fight scenes. They're also for combat sports outside of Taekwondo, for example, like ISKA world titles, and then of course sparring world championships in ITF Taekwondo itself. So there've been a few different titles along the way. To be honest, I never really set out initially to think I've got to win all these titles, but it did become to continue to test myself, and I think is for me. Like even this most recent MMA fight, which was really fantastic. For me, it's all just like a vehicle to continue to test myself. And I think somebody once told me that competition comes from a Latin word like to search together, and I think that's kind of how I think of it. You know, competition together, and petition like search. So together for what? Well, maybe like some greater meaning, or maybe some greater purpose, or maybe some greater growth. So I think of it like that. We're searching together to expand ourselves and to improve as martial artists. I think that's what is ultimately much more satisfying in the long term than just winning a medal. Like I can say quite honestly, once you win one gold medal, you just want another gold medal or another 10 gold medals. And it doesn't really matter how many you win because your ego is insatiable.
Is there a fight that really sticks out in your mind that really was so hard that medal was the one that you really deserve the most?
Yeah, there is a fight. I fought a guy called Jonathan Batista from Argentina, and I think I fought him 4 times. And I actually the first time was in the United States, and if I remember correctly, it was 2007. And he beat me quite easily and kind of gave me the bash. We were on like a raised stage, and he like knocked me off it several times, and I was just all over the place, to be honest. then 2008, I think I fought him 2008 again. And yeah, 2008 again. Similar circumstances. A little bit better, but still got beaten. And then 2009, I fought him at the World Championships for ITF Taekwondo, and that was in Argentina, in his home. And I had 5 fights in one day, and the first fight was against Batista. And I did a lot better. And I had been mentally rehearsing, preparing for Batista. I got the silver medal in minus 80 kilograms in 2009 in Argentina. And I was at the very end of the match. And but he still beat me with points, and he still manipulated me. He got me with a lot of side kicks. Not a broken rib that time, but yeah.
Okay.
And then the fourth time I fought was in an ISKA event called the World Gold Cup. And that was actually hosted in of all places, surprisingly, in Jamaica, which was really, really awesome. The Jamaican Taekwondo Federation, and in conjunction with ISKA, put on this tournament, and they invited a team from each. The idea was to invite a team from each continent. So they had like Argentina from South America. They had, I think, Canada from North America. They had, I think it was Poland from Europe. They had Japan, they had New Zealand. They might have had one more. I think maybe there was 5 or 6 continents anyway. And we all went along, and I had 3 fights that night. I fought a guy from Japan called Sugaya, and I beat him. Actually, that tornado kick knockout you might have seen.
Okay.
That was that one. That was that same event. And then I fought a good friend of mine from Jamaica, Kenneth Edwards, who had beat me previously, and another amazing martial artist. I'm now living in Canada, but from Jamaica. He was the hometown favorite. I remember getting to, and yeah, bummed out about that. But I fought Batista again, and keep in mind, he'd already beaten me several times. And I had been, you know what it is, I had been mentally rehearsing, right? I'd been mentally rehearsing some of the setups that I might use. And not that they were karate chops like that, but I actually set him up for a reverse turning kick, bande dolio chagi. So yeah, spinning hook kick in WTF language, and reverse turning kick in ITF language. And I switched stance, and I spun through, and yeah, and I knocked him out in that particular event, and I got the win. And yeah, to be honest, it was kind of like everything came together. Yeah, everything came together in that moment. In the following year, we had another World Championship event in New Zealand, and I championship for the first time. And yeah, I was fortunate enough to go on and win that as well. And so that was kind of like one of those typical. It felt kind of like one of those movie moments where you'd spend years and years and years getting your ass kicked. Long ago, just give up. You obviously, and then it finally came together. So that was a very satisfying rivalry, and much respect to Batista for pushing me to develop to be a better martial artist. Yeah, so
wonderful. Well, we learn so much from competition, don't we? And especially from losing, presumably.
Exactly. Yeah, I think. I mean, that's sort of a cliched idea, but it's, you either win or you learn. Yeah, so, or maybe both. Yeah.
And what's it been like then teaching the new generation? Have you got any hopefuls there for world champions?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We had from my team in 2017, a couple of years ago now, the Ireland Championships, and had a junior world champion in female minus 70 kgs, which was great. One of my other students, Riley Phillips Harris, he got silver in the same tournament. We had a lot of World Cup champions in 2018. My students got bronze last year in the 2019 World Championships. Ashley Porter. Yeah, like we're always looking for new, to bring out the best in people, and also to bring in new people onto the team that we can yeah, identify as future world champions. But I think for a lot of people, what it is training at Vanroon martial arts is not necessarily just about winning medals or winning titles. Of course, it's really more about being a world champion. You know, so that's what we try to. And I think, like, for example, in my situation with Batista, my rival, if I hadn't tried to be a champion to myself first, then I would have never become a world champion, because I probably would have given up after he up a couple of, you know. So that's the ethos that we try to instill in everyone here, whether they're young in our cadet squad, our junior squads, or whether squads into the into world championship level.
And who's your favorite fighter on the circuit right now?
Oh, that's really interesting. Well, I think that the Solovey team in the Ukraine, in terms of ITF Taekwondo, are pretty exceptional. Like, I think they're pretty exceptional, and I really like what they're doing. Very creative. Obviously, Vitaly and the offspring, the progeny, is kind of like the perfect storm. You know, he's been like son of Katya, who was a world champion, I think maybe 3 times or something herself, and Oleg, who is her coach, and he's just been bathed and saturated in this knowledge, and yeah, so it's, you know, it's really awesome to see this new generation like taking off. Another guy that I'm really fond of his playful style is Axel Vargas. One of the things in Argentina, I love the stuff that he does. I love how they move and the rhythm that they use. And outside of the Taekwondo world directly, I love seeing people incorporate Taekwondo and karate and traditional martial arts into the world of mixed martial arts, which was, you know, inspired me to do that myself. So obvious choices are people like Raymond Daniels, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, MVP Michael Venom Page from you know, they're all inspiring to me in a variety of different ways. And I think what we see now is a real renaissance of those old school martial arts techniques that have kind of come back almost, which is really fascinating. Like in the last 10 years, front snap face and the Karate Kid crane kick, lots of back kicks, spinning hook kicks. We've seen axe kicking. Yeah, all sorts, which is really, really exciting and really, really interesting to see. So, yeah, I think it's a really, really, really cool time. Yeah.
Well, with it being so organic now, does that make it more difficult to teach? If there's so many varied attacks coming in, how do you teach people to defend?
That's what I think makes it so interesting, because it's not about doing boxing in a little quadrant here and Taekwondo here and Jiu-Jitsu here and wrestling here and Judo here. It's not about doing them separately. It's about saying, how does this entire system now interact and merge with not just this system, but this system and this system? And you have all these many variables, as you identified, crossing over. And what I really enjoy is seeing, because I was always about solving when I was competing for world championship titles in Taekwondo, and trying to analyze, okay, so if this person's got this style and now I've got this style, how do I make them work together so that I can beat them with their own game? Now it's like saying, well, how do you beat a wrestler with that? You know, how do you beat a Muay Thai fighter with, you see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
And not only that, how do you use their responses against them? So how do you make a wrestler think that you're going to wrestle him and defend against wrestling and then use Taekwondo against them? How do you make a boxer read something in a way that they think it's going to be favorable for them, when it's going to be unfavorable if they actually knew what you knew as well? So a really good example, I sometimes, it's like languages, you know? Sometimes students say to me, people will sometimes say to me, people who are martial arts purists, and they'll say, how can you do karate and taekwondo at the same time? And I'll say, or how can you mix all these different martial arts together? Don't you get confused? Doesn't it make you worse? And I would often say to them things like this: look, if I speak Spanish already, it's going to be faster Portuguese than you if you don't speak Spanish. And then Italian is going to be even easier. And then Latin is going to be even easier.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so a lot of time it's not about saying this martial art is over here and completely separate, not for me at least. It's more like being a linguist and seeing the common threads between them. And even if you think, oh yeah, but that if you talk about Japanese, they're not related to Spanish. Maybe not directly related, but they all have grammar. They all have verbs. They all have adjectives. They all have nouns. They all have the structure of language within them. And if you understand the structure of language, you're much faster at learning and adapting and applying different principles across. The same principles that I use in my Taekwondo to manipulate an opponent, because I have 4 principles that I teach my students by: proactivity, deception, and spirit. The same 4 principles that I use are the principles that I use to teach or to approach other martial arts, whether I'm boxing or whether I'm wrestling or whether I'm doing jiu-jitsu, and then think about how to cross over between the two. So, yeah. I know that's long, but I hope you got something out of that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And what makes the difference between an average martial artist and an elite martial artist, in your opinion?
Okay. I think the difference is really just a lot of the time. I think what's undervalued is just consistency and passion. You know, like a lot of times, for like some kind of a silver bullet. They're looking for like ocean or recipe or perfect technique. But really, you know, like you probably heard about the idea of 10 hours to master something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, and like Mike Tyson, arguably one of the greatest of all time boxers, was saying that, you know, he doesn't believe in talent. He believes in just grit and consistency, training, you know. It's a lot like that, you know, to be honest. Like when I started martial arts, I definitely wasn't the most coordinated kid in the class. Yeah. Did I love the martial arts the most? Possibly. That might have been it, you know? And then I made that an obsession. And I think, you know, that's what it is. I think like Conor McGregor said that actually. You have to be obsessed.
You have to be obsessed, absolutely.
Good at something. You know, like if you want to be, I say to my students a lot, if you want to be extraordinary, you have to put in extra. Otherwise, you just be ordinary, right? It's really simple.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I like that. I may have to teach that concept myself. Okay, so what we've been trying to get a lot of our guests to do is one, set a challenge.
Yep.
And 2, to just demonstrate a combination for us. Would you be able to do that?
Sure. Yeah. Look, that's no problem at all.
Yeah, something not too complicated, just bearing in mind that a lot of us are sort of in a confined situation. So so we have to utilize that space, but be able to come up with something special.
Okay, yeah, sure. No problem at all. Well, what we'll do is we'll just, I was thinking we would work on a couple of straight punches into a spinning kick or a reverse turning kick. And I just wanted to show you that will help you speed up for your spinning hook kick or your reverse turning kick and make it a bit more efficient. Now, some of you might have already seen this on my YouTube channel if you have already watched it. But yeah, this might be helpful to you. So it's about spinning closer to the axis of rotation. Let's just start with the spin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that when I spin around, I'm going to take everything to the middle of where I'm spinning, okay? Rather than spinning like this with my leg out in a big wide circle like this, I'm going to tuck everything in. You might have seen ballerinas or you might have seen gymnasts or figure skaters or dancers spin in this way, where they take their neck into this sort of position. In ITF Taekwondo, we call that a bending stance, which looks like this. Bending ready stance, bending ready stance. Or it's also similar to the setup position for a twisting kick, which I call like an inverted chamber. So when I get my knee into this sort of position here, that's how I set up a twisting kick, So I flick my heel up, this twisting kick. So for spinning hook kick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wind up, turn my front, on my lead foot, turning my hip towards it. Then I'm going to wind up through my arms and tuck everything in, and I'm going to come up through. So a lot of people, when they spin, they'll try to go like this, wide like that. Or they'll make the kick so big at the beginning that by the time they get around, they've lost all the momentum. What I want to see you do is I want to see you bring this up tight like this, and then circle it around like this way. Right? Have a little watch. Look. So I come around and I whip out this way. It's going to make me spin much faster than before. So if I spin like this as an example, and I have my leg out, and then I suddenly take it in, you'll see that I spin a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Try again. One. What you can practice then is maybe just put together a couple of punches so that you don't use up too much space. You can spin on the spot and come back to the front. So maybe just like a 1-2, something like that. I'll show you.
Mm-hmm.
So let's come down the line like this. 1, 2, and then spin through this way. Let's try it again. Ready? And maybe to the side, this way. Fine. A little hustle in your step. Give it a go. If you have any questions, you're welcome to get in touch. And I'll do my best to answer.
Impressive, impressive. Well, thank you so much for giving up your time this morning over there, this evening over here. We really appreciate you spending some time and explaining so clearly what it is you do and what your beliefs are and how things work for you in particular. What we're trying to do with all of our guests is, okay, at the moment we are stuck indoors.
Yes.
But certainly when you're back there and you've got a full class, we'd love for you to bring the camera in and show us, some work in the dojo when it's full, because that would be ideal. Get to have a look at some of the new talent. We'd really love to see that. But thanks so much, Mr. Vanroon. It's been a pleasure. And everybody, so go over to Karl Vanroon's page if you'd like to give us your handle.
Yeah, Vanroon Martial Arts. Vanroon Martial Arts, all one word, obviously. Vanroon Martial Arts. Or you can search for us on YouTube, which is also under the same. Vanroon Martial Arts. V-A-N-R-O-O-N. Just like behind me, Vanroon, and then Martial Arts. Okay, so going over to YouTube, follow his YouTube channel. Have a look at him on Instagram. He's got some great stuff out there. It's been a pleasure. Karl Vanroon, Taekwondo. Thank you. Thank you. Catch you next time.
Thank you. Okay, everyone. So that was Karl Vanroon. Hope you enjoyed the interview. Hi, Sarita. Hope you enjoyed that interview. Very, very interesting. Some great ideas. Again, a technician, which you might have got from that. So next up, okay, I'm going to make it a little bit of a mystery. Keep watching on the stories. I will post it in there. Remember, practice. We got this move and we got the full arm move. Okay, practice those two moves. Okay, and then tomorrow all will become clear. It's been great having you. Tune in for the next one, which will either be, will it be tomorrow? Will probably be on Saturday, and we'll try and get another one in on Sunday. Great to see you all. Taekwondo.